you're never done. You never reach the destination. Quality it's a way of thinking.
Thanks for joining me today, Judy.
Thanks so much. I'm glad to be here.
Can companies really afford to serve a broader purpose and a greater good right now?
They can't afford not to. Something like 80 or 85% of valuation is connected to intangibles, not things that are easy to put on the balance sheet. Trust, reputation, the ability to attract and retain talent, the license to operate. So I don't think there's any stepping back from this moment. I think we're seeing a change that is going to continue to carry us forward in interesting ways.
Throughout your book, you give several examples like Walmart's hurricane support and Pepsi's healthier product mix, where profit isn't the obvious result, let alone the primary goal of their intentions. But the Merck story that you highlight consistently throughout your book really brought this home for me. Can you share that example?
The CEO of Merck, a couple decades ago now, Ray Vagelos, was seeing at a moment where the drug discovery process had produced a drug called Mectistan that didn't have any commercial value, but it was a cure for a devastating disease that was found in the river valleys of Africa and beyond. No commercial value in the sense that none of the victims of this disease who would be cured by accessing this medicine had an ability to pay for it. They also had no ability to get this drug to people easily. It's not like, you could roll into your local drugstore and pick it up. So it required the executive in this case to step back and really revisit, why are we in business? And it is a stunning example of doing the right thing. It built remarkable goodwill over time. It's not the only time that Merck has done this. And it is still a highly regarded company that continues to attract the best possible talent and leadership.
People want to get out of bed in the morning for a greater purpose. And you mentioned the premise of Roy Vagelos doing this largely for the scientists, right? To attract top talent. And so, it'd be fantastic if you could really unpack how these efforts really do motivate employees, and how does it get them out of bed in the morning to work for a company that ladders to that greater purpose and actually exemplifies it.
Young people today, they're looking for their CEO to mirror their own kind of concerns. And that's something we've seen in spades over the last few years. But I also think that to do this well, companies have to be assured that their purpose, what they stand for, really connects deeply to the business model. This is not about philanthropy. This is not about the things you do down the hall when you have extra time and extra money. This is about what is our business model actually designed to do? To quote Indra Nooyi, the last CEO of Pepsi, it's about how you make your money, not about how you give it away.
But do you mind talking a little bit more about the process of how it's best developed? How should organizations go about creating their purpose statement?
It's about authenticity. It's about keeping your promises. And so it takes you back to say, what are we in business to do? It's not a hard question. It's one that just takes some reflection. Like, what are we really trying to accomplish that connects to something larger than the company itself? It connects back to some sense of kind of public purpose and something larger than just us. And then the other thing is it's about, purpose is revealed, and it's about scrubbing your operation to make sure that you are actually aligning your decision rules, your protocols, your, incentive systems to fully embrace what it is you say you stand for. It's about continuous improvement and staying honest to what's required to continue to make improvements.
It's interesting because I reflect back on many, many years ago when Michael Jordan was famously pressured to use his platform to promote social and political issues, to which he replied, "Republicans buy sneakers too," I believe was the famous quote. And so what advice would you give companies and leaders when it comes to authenticity, and when to decide to lean into specific issues and when to understand that that's maybe not an arena one should play?
I don't know about giving advice, but I could point to examples of, I think, effective leadership. When Hurricane Katrina hit, Walmart got the best press it had had in a very long period of time. A long line of Walmart trucks lined up on I-10 waiting for the National Guard to let them to go into the center of the city. And, they were full of diapers and, bottles of water and, essential goods that these people that were stranded were desperate to get their hands on. And Lee Scott stepped back from that moment and said, how do I get more press like this? But rather than stay in philanthropy, he wisely moved back into the business model and took advantage of probably what he had been hearing from a lot of people over a long period of time, including their own employees, that we can do a better job in terms of using our supply chain to actually embrace change that is so much needed in the world of environmental sustainability.
Senior level leaders are primarily incentivized to really drive near-term value through stock price and equity. And you discuss a little bit about why a change needs to happen. Can you unpack that in a little bit more detail?
It is the case in the US with public companies that the loudest signal in pay packages is TSR, total shareholder return. So there's a lot to say about that as being a central problem of pay, but we're stepping back and saying, what are we really paying executives to do? You were talking about the CEO's motivation. Money is not the motivation. The motivation is doing a decent job. The motivation is intrinsic. The motivation is solving complicated problems. The motivation is creating goods and services. That's why people go into business. If you manage the business and really focus on the business, it creates greater value over time, and the shareholders will also benefit.
I love that. And I also love the example that you give of the New Yorker cartoon, which I swiftly Googled as I was reading the book. The subtitle reads, "Yes, the planet got destroyed, but for a beautiful moment in time, we created a lot of value for our shareholders."
The reason we're having this conversation is we need business at the table to address these complex problems. Businesses are well equipped. It's not the only part of we need government too, and that needs to be in balance and work well together. But we don't crack the code on a virus without business collaborating.
I'd love your take on how the leaders of tomorrow should be educated.
We need to change it up. It's a problem because it's hard to, in business schools, train people to make sure they can get an entry-level job, but also be training them for what they will need when they grow into jobs that are, require different kinds of management skills and different kinds of kind of understanding of humans and how to influence others and bring about change and systemic change and the kind of things that they have to think about when they really move into leadership positions. So business education has got to be about continuous learning. We have to maybe get some pushback against the demands of these entry-level employers that are not actually helping in terms of setting a different course for business education.
I do think that, to your point, school's evolving because it needs to. But there certainly is more work to be done because, again, people leave school focused on profits. And as their careers evolve, unfortunately, their thinking doesn't always.
But, there certainly are a lot of change agents and people who have been at this for a very long period of time in business education. It may be that they teach in ethics classrooms or that they're teaching in organizational behavior or in parts of the curriculum that are not as well equipped to bring up these kind of complicated ideas. But I don't think it's about social impact. I really think it's about a well-run business today. And hopefully that attitude is what will carry us forward.